5 years of marriage, one child, zero warning. I walked into my husband's office to share life-changing news and heard him say, "She'll leave with nothing." He thought I was powerless. He didn't know I had already won $50 million. I never believed in luck, not the kind that drops miracles into your lap anyway. My life was simple, quiet, predictable. I was a stay-at-home mom, married for 5 years, raising a 3-year-old boy who thought the world revolved around toy blocks and bedtime stories. My husband ran a small construction business. He worked long hours. I stayed home. That was the deal. And honestly, I was fine with it. That Tuesday morning started like every other. I made breakfast, wiped spilled juice off the counter, and watched my son play on the living room floor while humming to himself. The sun poured in through the window, soft and ordinary. Nothing special about it at all. While cleaning, I noticed a crumpled lottery ticket stuck to my grocery list. Mega Millions, a quick pick. I barely remembered buying it. The day before, it had been raining hard. I ducked into a small shop, and the woman behind the counter insisted I buy a ticket for luck. I chose random numbers tied to birthdays and anniversaries, fully expecting it to be trash. Out of boredom more than hope, I pulled out my phone and checked the results. The first number matched, then the second, then the third. My smile froze. I checked again, slowly, carefully. Every number, including the mega ball. I didn't scream. I didn't laugh. I dropped my phone and sat on the floor like my legs had stopped working. $50 million. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I thought I might pass out. The first thought wasn't luxury or freedom. It was my son, his future, his safety, his education. And then my husband, how relieved he'd be. No more pressure, no more late nights, no more stress eating away at him. I cried, quietly, shaking. When I finally stood up, my hands were still trembling as I tucked the ticket deep into my purse. I scooped at my son, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Mommy has a surprise for Daddy." I didn't even call ahead. I took an Uber straight to his office, heart racing the entire way. I imagined his reaction: shock, disbelief, happiness. I pictured us hugging, laughing, planning a new life. The building was quiet when I arrived. The receptionist smiled and asked if she should announce me. "No," I said, grinning. "I want to surprise him." I walked down the hallway, my son resting against my shoulder, my steps light with excitement. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Soft, intimate, feminine. I stopped. Then another voice joined it, my husband's. Not the professional tone he used at work, but low, gentle, familiar in a way that my stomach twisted. I moved closer without thinking. The door to his office was slightly open. And then I heard the words that shattered my world. "Don't worry, I'll get rid of her soon. She believes everything I tell her." I felt the blood drain from my face. Another woman laughed. "She's really that clueless?" He chuckled. "She lives for the kid in the house. Once I file for divorce, she'll walk away with nothing." My grip tightened around my son. "And the child?" the other woman asked. There was a pause. "He can stay with her for now," my husband replied casually. "If I want him later, I'll take him." Something inside me died in that moment. The man I trusted, the life I believed in, the future I was about to hand him on a silver platter. All of it was a lie. I stood there, silent, invisible, clutching a lottery ticket worth $50 million while realizing the man I loved had already decided to destroy me. And that was the exact moment I stopped being naive. Because if he thought I was walking away with nothing, he had no idea what was about to happen next. In the next part, I walk away without being seen, but I don't leave empty-handed. Because that lottery ticket, it was no longer a blessing. It was a weapon. I didn't burst into the office. I didn't scream. I didn't cry where they could see me. I did something far more dangerous. I stayed quiet. I stepped back from the door slowly, my heartbeat thundering so loud I was afraid they'd hear it. My son shifted in my arms, sensing the tension, and I pressed my lips to his hair to keep him calm. Inside that office, my husband was laughing with another woman, planning my exit like I was already gone. I walked away without a sound. At the front desk, the receptionist looked up, confused. "Did you see Mr. Jones?" I forced a smile so tight it almost cracked my face. "I forgot something at home. I'll come back later." She nodded, unsuspecting. Outside, the world looked exactly the same. Cars passed, people laughed. Life moved on, completely unaware that mine had just collapsed. The moment I sat in the Uber, the tears came. Not loud sobs, not hysteria, just silent, choking pain. I cried for the woman I had been an hour ago, the one who believed love meant loyalty, the one who was seconds away from handing over $50 million to a man who was already sharpening the knife for her back. By the time we reached home, the crying stopped. Something else replaced it. Cold clarity. I laid my son down for a nap and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection. Red eyes, trembling hands, a stranger staring back at me. That woman was gone. In her place stood a mother with a single priority: survival. I replayed every word I'd heard. Divorce, fake debt, taking my child. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to erase me. That's when I realized something terrifyingly important. If I confronted him now, I would lose. If I revealed the lottery, I would lose everything. If I panicked, I would hand him the advantage. So I made a decision. No one would know about the money. Not my husband, not friends, not even family. That lottery ticket wasn't luck anymore. It was leverage. That night, my husband came home late, irritated as usual. He tossed his keys on the counter and complained about work like nothing had happened. I watched him closely. The same face, the same voice, a complete stranger wearing my husband's skin. "Are you okay?" he asked, noticing my swollen eyes. I swallowed and nodded. "I'm just tired." The lie slid out easily. He didn't press further. He never did. Later, lying beside him in bed, I stared at the ceiling while he slept peacefully, completely unaware that the woman next to him now knew the truth, and that she was already planning her escape. The next morning, I called my mother, not to tell her everything, just enough. I told her I needed to visit for a few days. I said I wasn't feeling well, that I needed help with my son. She didn't hesitate. "Come home," she said. "I'll take care of you." That was the opening I needed. That evening, I casually mentioned it to my husband. "I think I'll take our son to my mom's for a bit, just to rest." He barely looked up from his phone. "Fine," he said. "Do whatever you want." No concern, no questions. That told me everything. He already thought he'd won. 2 days later, I boarded a bus with my child asleep on my shoulder and a winning lottery ticket hidden deep inside my bag. I wasn't running away. I was repositioning. Because the first rule of war isn't revenge, it's preparation. And the people who underestimate you are the easiest ones to defeat. In the next part, I reveal the one person I trusted with my secret and how claiming the money without my husband ever knowing became the most dangerous move of all. The bus ride felt longer than it actually was. My son slept against my chest, warm and peaceful, completely unaware that his entire world was balancing on a thin piece of paper hidden in my bag. Every mile we traveled took me farther from my old life and closer to the truth I couldn't run from anymore. I wasn't just escaping a cheating husband. I was escaping a trap. When we arrived at my mother's house, she opened the door with the same familiar smile she'd worn my whole life. The smell of home-cooked food, the quiet neighborhood, the safety of her arms. It almost broke me. I held it together until nightfall, until my son was asleep. Until the house was quiet, until it was just the two of us at the kitchen table. Then I collapsed. I told her everything. Not softened, not edited. The affair, the divorce plan, the fake debt, the threat to take my child. My mother didn't interrupt. She didn't cry at first. She just listened, hands clenched, jaw tight, eyes burning with a rage I had never seen before. When I finished, she stood up slowly. "If I were younger," she said, voice shaking, "I'd go there myself." Then I pulled out the lottery ticket. I placed it on the table between us. Her eyes narrowed, confused, then widened. "What is this?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Mom, I won." Silence filled the room. She stared at the numbers, at the logo, at the amount printed at the bottom. $50 million. For a moment, she thought I was joking. Then she looked at my face and understood. Her knees gave out. She sat down hard in the chair. "My God," she breathed. This is how you survive." Exactly. I told her why I couldn't claim it myself, how my husband watched every financial move, how a sudden windfall would alert him immediately, how divorce laws would hand him half if he found out. "I need you," I said. "I need you to claim it for me." She hesitated, just for a second. Then she nodded. A mother doesn't ask questions when her child is in danger. The next few days were a blur of careful planning. We called the lottery office from a prepaid phone. We learned the procedures. We learned about anonymity, about taxes, about deadlines. Everything had to be perfect. My mother went along. She wore plain clothes, sunglasses, and kept her head down. She signed the documents, chose a lump sum, requested direct deposit. When the money cleared, she called me. "It's done," she whispered. After taxes, the amount was smaller, but still life-changing, more than enough to protect my son, rebuild my future, and dismantle the man who thought I was powerless. The money sat safely in an account no one knew about, not even my father. Back in my old life, my husband was growing impatient. He called once, then twice. I answered softly, pretending to be weak, apologetic, unsure. "I'm just resting. Mom says I look exhausted." "Don't stay too long," he said casually. "Things are complicated here." I knew what that meant. He was preparing, and so was I. When I returned home days later, I stepped back into my role perfectly. Same clothes, same posture, same obedient wife. But inside, I was already gone. Because money doesn't just buy comfort. It buys time. It buys options. And most importantly, it buys freedom. And my husband had no idea that the woman he was planning to crush was already holding the key to his downfall. In the next part, he makes his first move, introducing the debt that was supposed to destroy me. But I play along because sometimes the best way to win is to let your enemy believe you've already lost. When I came back home, nothing looked different. Same house, same couch, same man sitting there pretending we were still a family. But the air had changed. My husband didn't hug me when I walked in. He barely looked up from his phone. Our son ran toward him excitedly, arms open, and my husband patted his head like he was checking off a chore. That hurt more than anything else. Later that night, after our son was asleep, my husband finally spoke. "We need to talk." Those 4 words landed exactly where he wanted them to. He sat across from me, elbows on his knees, sighing like a man carrying the weight of the world. I recognized the performance immediately. I'd watched it for years. Only this time, I knew the script. "The company is in serious trouble," he said. "Worse than I thought." I stayed silent, let him talk. "We owe money, a lot of it. Loans, unpaid suppliers, penalties. If things don't turn around soon," he paused, letting the fear settle, "we could lose everything." I lowered my eyes, hands trembling just enough to look convincing. "How much?" I whispered. He hesitated. 50,000. There it was. The number he and his mistress had rehearsed behind closed doors. I gasped. 50,000? He nodded solemnly. "And that's just what I can admit right now." I felt sick, not because of the amount, but because of how calculated it was. He chose a number big enough to crush me, but small enough to sound believable. "I don't know how we'll manage," he continued. "The bank won't help, friends won't lend anymore. We're at the edge." I started crying. Real tears this time, just redirected. "I don't have anything," I said through sobs. "I already spent my savings. I told you, on the insurance for our son." His reaction was subtle, but I caught it. Relief, hidden behind frustration. "What?" he snapped, standing up. "You spent all of it?" "I thought I was helping. I didn't know it was this bad." He turned away, rubbing his temples like a man betrayed. "That money could have saved us. Now we're trapped." Exactly what he wanted me to believe. Over the next few days, the pressure increased. He started coming home late, taking phone calls in other rooms, leaving paperwork on the table, documents I was clearly meant to see. Past due notices, warnings, bank letters, all fake. But I reacted the way he expected. I stopped buying groceries he liked. I wore the same clothes over and over. I apologized constantly. "I'm sorry," I said one night. "This is my fault." He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed deeply and said, Maybe we need to consider separating, just to protect what little we have left." There it was, the first crack, the idea planted gently, as if it was for my own good. I nodded through tears. "If that's what you think is best." That night, he didn't sleep beside me, and I knew this was moving faster than he planned, which meant it was time for me to change the game. Because while he was busy inventing debts, I was quietly preparing evidence. While he thought I was afraid, I was watching, listening, learning, and most importantly, waiting. Because the man who thinks he has total control always gets careless, and when he did, I'd be ready. In the next part, I agree to something humiliating, working under my husband's roof. But what he doesn't realize is that he's about to invite me straight into the heart of his secrets. I didn't suggest working at his company because I wanted to help. I suggested it because I wanted access. One evening, after another tense dinner eaten in silence, I finally spoke. "I can help," I said quietly. He looked up, confused. "Help how?" "I can come to the office," I continued. "Do small things, cleaning, filing, anything to save money." He stared at me for a long moment. I could practically see the calculations forming behind his eyes. Having me there meant control, humiliation, and proof to everyone that the great director was so desperate his wife had to work for free. Exactly what he wanted. "Fine," he said at last, "but don't embarrass me." The next Monday, I dropped my son at daycare and walked into the office wearing my oldest clothes, hair pulled back, no makeup. I looked exactly like the woman he believed I was, broken, dependent, and defeated. The receptionist's smile faded when she saw me. "You're working here?" I nodded. "Starting today." Whispers followed me down the hallway. My husband stepped out of his office, and beside him stood her, his assistant, his mistress, perfectly styled, confident, smiling like she'd already won. "Everyone," my husband announced, "this is my wife. She'll be helping around the office during this difficult period. No title, no respect, just help." She approached me first, extending her hand. "I'm Zara," she said sweetly. "If you need anything, just ask." Her grip was firm, territorial. I lowered my eyes. "Thank you. I'll try not to get in the way." She smiled wider, and just like that, the game began. My days were filled with errands and insults disguised as instructions. "Make coffee, stronger this time. Clean that again, it's dusty. Hurry up, you're too slow." My husband barely acknowledged me unless it was to criticize. He closed his office door with her inside, laughed loudly, made sure I could hear it. I swallowed every humiliation, because while they saw a servant, I saw patterns. Who spoke to whom? Which files were locked? Which names appeared again and again? I paid special attention to the accounting department. 3 desks, 3 people, and 1 woman who didn't laugh at my husband's jokes. She was older, quiet, sharp-eyed, and when the assistant snapped at her, I saw something flash across her face. Disgust. That was important. I made her tea every morning, asked nothing in return. At lunch, while others went out, we ate from our containers in silence, until one day she spoke. "This company isn't as broke as he claims," she said casually. My heart skipped. "I wouldn't know. I don't understand numbers." She studied me. "Smart girl," she said. "Play dumb. It keeps you alive." From that moment on, I knew there were secrets buried in that office. and I was standing right on top of them. I didn't need revenge yet. I needed proof. And that building, that office, was about to give me everything. In the next part, a single mistake opens a door I wasn't meant to see, and what I find inside changes the entire war. By the second week at the office, they barely noticed me anymore. That was perfect. When people stop seeing you, they stop guarding themselves. I moved quietly, cleaning desks, refilling water, wiping fingerprints off glass, while memorizing everything. Who arrived early, who stayed late, who whispered when my husband walked by, and, most importantly, who didn't trust him. The head accountant rarely spoke to anyone. She kept her desk neat, her expression unreadable, her eyes sharp. My husband treated her politely, but without warmth. His mistress treated her like a nuisance. That imbalance told me everything. One evening, the office emptied earlier than usual. My husband and his assistant left together, laughing, doors closing behind them. Only 2 people remained, the accountant and me. I cleaned slowly, deliberately, staying nearby. She restarted her computer, and that's when it happened. Instead of the usual spreadsheets, another file flashed on the screen. A different name, a different color, a file that didn't belong. My breath caught. Before she could react, her phone rang. She frowned, grabbed it, and walked away to take the call, leaving the screen glowing behind her. I had seconds. I stepped closer, pretending to wipe her desk. The file name burned into my memory. Not losses, not debts, something else. Something valuable. I didn't touch the mouse. I didn't dare. But I read. Numbers that didn't match the story I'd been fed. Contracts I'd never heard about. Transfers that didn't appear on any official report. This wasn't a failing company. It was a company bleeding money on purpose. Footsteps echoed down the hall. I jumped back just as she returned, minimizing the screen without a word. Our eyes met. She knew. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. That night, I barely slept. I replayed those numbers again and again. If I could see it by accident, then the truth had to be hiding somewhere nearby. Locked, encrypted, protected, but not impossible to reach. The next day, I came prepared. I bought a small flash drive, cheap, unmarked, easy to hide. I didn't rush. I waited. Opportunities don't come to the impatient. They come to the observant. Near closing time, my husband rushed out again, fussing over his assistant like she was Madame Blass. She clutched her stomach dramatically. He offered to take her home. "Stay and finish up," he told the accountant. "I'll deal with the rest tomorrow." Then he turned to me. "Lock up before you leave." The door closed. The office fell silent. The accountant stood up to wash her cup. I felt my pulse spike. I needed her away from her desk, so I created chaos. A sharp crack, a spark. Lights flickered, then went out. She yelped. "The breaker," she said. "Check the panel." I ran, but not where she thought. The moment her back turned, I moved. Her computer was still warm, still powered. My hands shook as I plugged in the flash drive. Folders opened, directories appeared, and there it was, the file, the one I wasn't supposed to see. A password prompt popped up. My heart dropped. Footsteps behind me. "I'm coming," she called. I froze. This was it. Success or disaster? I guessed. Once? Twice? Wrong. She stepped into the room. "What are you doing?" she asked sharply. The progress bar blinked. Then, complete. She stared at the screen, then at me. I waited for shouting, for threats, for betrayal. Instead, she closed the door, locked it, and said quietly, "You better know what you're doing." I nodded, tears burning my eyes. "I do." She took the drive from the computer and handed it to me. She said, "Leave and don't come back." I didn't argue. I ran, because now I didn't just know the truth. I had proof. In the next part, I disappear from the office, and my husband thinks he's finally won. He has no idea that the evidence in my hands is about to burn his entire world down. I didn't go back to the office the next day, or the day after that. I let the silence speak for me. By the third day, my husband finally called. "Why aren't you coming in?" he snapped. "You can't just disappear whenever you feel like it." I lowered my voice, letting it tremble. "I can't do it anymore," I said. "Your assistant humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm ashamed. Please let me stay home." There was a pause. Then something I didn't expect. Relief. "Fine," he said quickly. "Do what you want." He didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanations, because to him, this meant victory. He believed I'd broken under pressure, that the office had crushed me just like he intended, that I'd retreat quietly, ashamed, powerless, exactly where he wanted me. That illusion was priceless. At home, I returned to my role flawlessly. I cooked, I cleaned, I stayed silent. When he came home late smelling of expensive perfume, I didn't ask where he'd been. When he ignored our son, I swallowed my anger, because every day I waited was another day he felt safe. Meanwhile, I worked. Late at night, after my son fell asleep, I locked myself in the bedroom and studied the files I'd copied. Every contract, every transfer, every fake loss report. It was all there. The shell companies, the diverted assets, the double bookkeeping, and the debt? A complete fabrication. I made multiple copies. One stayed hidden in my child's stuffed toy. One went to my mother. One lived in encrypted storage no one could trace back to me. Then I waited. And sure enough, he made his next move. One evening, he sat across from me at the table, face serious. "I've spoken to a lawyer," he said. "This situation isn't healthy." My heart thudded, but I didn't let it show. "I think divorce might be best," he continued. "Given the company situation, there's nothing to divide, no assets, just debt." I stared at my hands like they were shaking. "And our son?" I whispered. "He stays with you," he said casually. "I don't have time right now. Maybe later." Later? Like a forgotten package. I nodded. "I understand." That was when his eyes narrowed. "You're agreeing?" I forced a sad smile. "I don't have a choice." He relaxed instantly. The paperwork arrived days later. Cold, efficient, cruel. No shared property, no support, no responsibility. I signed everything without protest. Each signature felt like closing a door behind me. When the judge finalized the divorce, my husband didn't look at me once. He left with his mistress, laughing softly, already planning their future. I stood in the rain with my son in my arms, exactly how he wanted to see me. Defeated. Alone. Poor. But inside my coat pocket was a burner phone, and inside my bag, the evidence that would end him. I wasn't broken. I was free. And now, I could finally strike back. And the next part, I meet the one man my ex-husband fears most, the partner he betrayed and destroyed. And together, we begin the counterattack. Freedom didn't feel like relief. It felt like focus. The day after the divorce, I didn't cry. I didn't rest. I didn't celebrate. I dropped my son off at daycare, sat in my car, and made one phone call. Not to family, not to friends. To a private investigator. I needed a name, one name in particular. My ex-husband once mentioned him during a drunken rant years ago. A former partner, a man he'd forced out of the company before it ever became successful. At the time, I'd brushed it off as business drama. Now I knew better. 3 days later, the file landed in my inbox. Malik Thompson, former co-founder, technical expert, bankrupted, divorced, left with debt and a failing workshop on the outskirts of town. I stared at his photo for a long time. Tired eyes, oil-stained hands, a man who'd been crushed but not extinguished. Perfect. I drove out alone, wearing simple clothes, nothing flashy. I didn't want him intimidated. I wanted him listening. His workshop smelled like metal and rust. Machines groaned, sparks flew. He looked up when I walked in, annoyed. "If you're here to collect money," he said flatly, "you're wasting your time." "I'm not. I'm here because of my ex-husband." That got his attention. The wrench in his hand clattered to the floor. He laughed bitterly. "Of course you are." "I'm not his messenger," I said calmly. "I'm his victim." He froze. I told him everything, the affair, the lies, the fake bankruptcy, the way I was discarded. Then I opened my folder. Contracts, ledgers, transfers, proof. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. This is real," he whispered. "It is," I said, "and it's exactly how he destroyed you, too." Malik's jaw tightened. Years of rage surfaced all at once. He stole my work, my designs, my contacts, then blamed losses on me and forced me out. "I know," I said. "That's why I'm here." He looked at me wary. "What do you want?" "To build something better," I said, "and destroy him legally while we do it." Silence stretched between us. Finally, he laughed. Not humor. Release. "I've waited years for this," he said. I slid a contract across the table. A new company, clean books, better technology. I would fund it. He would run it. "How much?" he asked cautiously. $500,000, I replied. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You just walked out of a divorce." "And walked into opportunity," I said. "I have the capital. You have the skill." He thought for a long time. Then he held out his hand. "Let's bury him." We named the company Phoenix because we were both rising from ashes. In the next part, Phoenix launches, and my ex-husband laughs at the competition. He won't be laughing for long. Phoenix launched quietly. No announcements, no press, no bragging. Just contract signed behind closed doors and machines running day and night. Malik worked like a man possessed. He rebuilt production from the ground up, new suppliers, better materials, tighter timelines. Clients noticed immediately. And just like that, the calls started coming in. At first, my ex-husband laughed. "A startup?" he scoffed to his staff. "Run by that loser, Malik?" Please. He didn't know the funding source, didn't know the contracts, didn't know I was watching. But then one of his biggest clients didn't renew. Then another. Then another. Suddenly, meetings ran longer. Doors slammed harder. Voices raised behind glass walls. Malik sent me weekly reports. Client loss accelerating. Cash flow unstable. Inventory piling up. Phoenix, meanwhile, was thriving. Better pricing, better quality, faster delivery. Clients didn't care about loyalty when performance spoke louder. One night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Why are you doing this?" my ex-husband demanded. I smiled softly. "I don't know what you mean." "Phoenix," he snapped. "You think I don't know it's connected to you?" "I always said you didn't understand business," I replied calmly. "Why would you think I could pull this off?" Silence. Then anger. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "I'll crush them. And you." I hung up. That night, Malik called. "He's trying to undercut prices illegally, dumping inventory. Desperate." "Good," I replied. "Let him bleed." Weeks passed. Phoenix secured an exclusive overseas supplier, something my ex-husband had chased for years and failed to lock down. That was the final blow. His accountant quit. His assistant disappeared. His creditors called nonstop. And then, my favorite moment, a notice from the tax authority. Audit. Triggered by anonymous documentation. I didn't submit it. Malik didn't either. Turns out, when enough evidence exists, it finds its own way to daylight. My ex-husband called me again. This time, his voice cracked. "You knew," he said quietly, "from the beginning." I didn't deny it. "You took everything from me," he continued. "My company, my future." I paused. "No," I said. "You gave it away." He hung up. 2 weeks later, his company filed for bankruptcy. Real this time. I watched the news from my balcony, my son laughing behind me, chasing bubbles across the floor. Justice didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with paperwork and consequences. In the next part, he shows up at my door with nothing left, asking for mercy. I didn't expect him to come in person. I thought he'd hide, disappear, pretend none of it was happening. But desperation makes people brave, or foolish. It was early evening when the security desk called my condo. "There's a man downstairs asking for you," the guard said. "He says it's urgent." I already knew who it was. I told them to let him up. When the elevator doors opened, I almost didn't recognize him. The expensive suit was gone, his hair was unkempt, his shoulders slumped like they were carrying years of regret instead of confidence. The man who once looked down on me now couldn't even meet my eyes. "Nice place," he muttered. I didn't invite him to sit. "What do you want?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "I need help." There it was. No apology, no accountability, just need. "My company is gone," he continued. "The audits, the lawsuits, I lost everything." I crossed my arms. "And?" I said. "They froze my accounts," he said. "I can't access anything. Zara left, took what little she could, and vanished." That didn't surprise me. "Look," he said, voice breaking. "I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your son's father." I laughed quietly. "You didn't remember that when you planned to take him away from me." He flinched. "I was under pressure," he said, weakly. "So was I replied. "You just chose cruelty." He stepped closer. "I need money, just enough to start over." I shook my head. "You taught me something important," I said calmly, "that love without respect is worthless." Silence filled the room. He finally looked up at me. "You did this, didn't you?" I met his gaze without fear. "I survived you. Everything else was a consequence." He stood there for a long moment, defeated. Then he turned and walked out. No threats, no final insults, just emptiness. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in years, because revenge isn't loud, it's closure. In the next part, I make my final move, not against him, but for myself and my son. And it changes everything. After he walked out of my life for the final time, something unexpected happened. The silence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. For years, my thoughts had revolved around survival, anticipating his moods, managing his lies, shrinking myself so I wouldn't provoke conflict. Even revenge had required focus, precision, and restraint. But now, there was nothing left to fight. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Sunlight filled the apartment. My son padded into the living room in his pajamas, laughing about a dream I didn't fully understand but listened to anyway. That's when it hit me. This was the life I almost lost. Not money, not comfort, time. I started making changes, not dramatic ones, just intentional ones. I enrolled my son in a school that valued curiosity over pressure. I hired a financial advisor who worked for me, not around me. I diversified the investments, quietly, patiently, the way real stability is built. Phoenix continued to grow, but I stepped further back. Malik didn't need me hovering, he needed trust, and he'd earned it. For the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. Then came the letter, a formal notice from the court. My ex-husband was under investigation for fraud, tax evasion, and misrepresentation. The evidence was overwhelming. His former partners were speaking up. Former employees were cooperating. I didn't attend the hearings. I didn't need to. That chapter had closed. One evening, my son asked a question that stopped me cold. "Mom," he said softly, "why don't we see Daddy anymore?" I knelt in front of him and chose honesty, without poison. "Because sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt others," I said. "And when that happens, we protect ourselves." He thought for a moment. Then he nodded. Okay, that was enough. I realized then that winning wasn't about proving anything. It was about ending the cycle. No more chaos, no more fear, no more explaining myself to people who benefited from misunderstanding me. I wasn't rebuilding my life. I was designing it. In the final part, I tell you what real victory looks like, not from a courtroom, not from a bank account, but from the moment you realize you are no longer defined by what tried to break you. People think victory looks loud. They imagine fireworks, headlines, public apologies, someone begging on their knees. But that's not how real winning feels. Real victory is quiet. It's waking up one ordinary morning and realizing you're no longer afraid. Months passed. The court cases ended the way they were supposed to. Sentences were handed down, assets were seized, names disappeared from company registries and social circles alike. I didn't follow the details closely. I didn't need to. My life was no longer connected to his downfall. It was connected to my future. My son grew taller, stronger, happier. He learned to swim, learned to read full sentences, learned that home was a place of laughter, not tension. That mattered more than any revenge ever could. Phoenix became a success story quietly, steadily. Malik rebuilt his reputation, his career, his confidence. Watching someone reclaim their dignity reminded me why I'd started everything in the first place, not to destroy, but to restore balance. One afternoon, sitting on the balcony with a cup of coffee, I caught my reflection in the glass door. I looked different, not because of money or comfort, but because my shoulders were relaxed, my breathing steady, my eyes clear. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just escaped a marriage. I had escaped a version of myself that believed love required endurance of pain. I used to think strength meant staying. Now I know it means knowing when to leave. I never told my son the full story. He doesn't need it. All he needs to know is that his mother chose courage when it mattered, and that his world is safe. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that lottery ticket, how close I came to handing it over, how different everything could have been. Luck didn't save me. Awareness did. Preparation did. And the decision to stop underestimating myself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. People who betray you count on your silence, your fear, your doubt. The moment you stop giving them those things, their power disappears. I didn't win because I had money. I won because I refused to stay small. And that's a victory no one can ever take away. If the story taught me anything, it's this. The most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. And if you're listening to this thinking, this feels familiar, maybe it's time you remembered who you really are too. If today's story touched your heart or kept you hooked, you can show your love by sending a super thanks. Your support helps me continue creating more powerful life stories for you. Thank you truly for always being so kind and supportive. I can't wait to read your thoughts about this story. On your screen right now, you'll find 2 new stories that I highly recommend, filled with emotions, twists, and lessons. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for many more inspiring life stories. Until the next one, sending you love, respect, and gratitude. See ya in the next story.